ecosystem that there are other areas where job that allowed me to stay in LA as opposed to what I wanted.
To a number of different departments. I started in media sales.
Well, I think that as we've seen many companies
Welcome to Class E, the podcast brought to you through a partnership between the Office for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department at Furman University. I'm your host, Mary Sturgill, the Furman Innovation and Entrepreneurship Faculty Fellow and Instructor in the Communication Studies Department. We are so glad that all of you could join us today. This podcast is like a masterclass on how to bring your innovative ideas to light, how to start a business, make connections, and make a difference. And we do that through the stories of our guests who share not only their successes, but also their failures, so that you, Class E listeners, can learn from the folks who have gone before. Speaking of learning from others, we're here today with J.J. Fowler, who is a media systems specialist for the ITS department at Furman University. However, that's just his desk job. He's also the CEO and founder of Van Zeppelin, an aerial drone photography company based right here in Greenville. JJ, we're so glad that you could join us today.
Thank you for having me.
But before we get to the drones, let's talk a little bit about your background and how you came to be at Furman in the ITS department.
Okay, I started at Verizon Wireless. I came from Verizon, was there for 15 years doing the whole corporate thing, just kind of a mindless job doing IT work over and over. And then Verizon had huge layoffs because that's what large companies do,
right?
And outsource things to India and things like that. And fortunately, there was a large severance package because I'd been there for 15 years, so I took a little bit of time off and started focusing more on the Van Zeppelin aerial business. And from there, it just kind of bloomed a lot more when I had more time to dedicate to it. And getting to Furman was just pure luck, actually. I was just looking through Glassdoor, I believe, was the application, and I saw this position, and it seemed like it had a little bit more life to it than the normal corporate workday, where you actually had some creative freedoms, and it ended up being a very good fit. I interviewed and kind of got the job right off, and it's just been great. I've only been here 2 years, but I really like it.
Yeah. So when we say ITS, what exactly does that mean? What do you do here at Furman on a day-to-day basis?
My title is Digital Media Specialist. I manage all the digital signs on campus, which are all the TVs you see sprinkled throughout that serve information on upcoming events and all that. I make sure they're working. And also all the teaching stations. If you're in a classroom, that computer is my responsibility to make sure it's going.
Right. So you mentioned that you had this idea for the company several years ago.
Yes.
How did that come about?
That came about through just getting into it as a hobby. Basically, I started in the beginning. What drones were wouldn't really make a business. They weren't good enough. They were the first drone I bought was a Phantom 1 from DJI. They didn't even come with a camera. It was just a drone package. You bought a GoPro, attached it to the bottom, hit record, and flew off and hope for the best.
Right. So you were just playing around.
Yeah, you're just playing around.
With
exactly.
like a remote control airplane or something.
Yeah, it was. It was just a fun novelty. Like, oh, cool, I can fly this thing and I can get a perspective and see what's up above. And from that, the technology just kept getting better and better, and I realized that you could actually do something with this. You could sell this content.
So what happened specifically that made you think, oh, I might be able to make some money at this?
Oddly enough, it was Verizon.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, they had heard that I had an interest in drones, and they wanted to do a kind of a corporate kickoff video. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. They're like a pep rally / brainwashing seminar.
Yeah, well, how they motivate their salespeople, their sales force.
Yes,
Yes,
it's just crazy. But they wanted a video for that, and I ended up, they shut the entire call center down that I worked at and brought all 500 people out into the parking lot and arranged them in the parking lot in that kind of iconic check mark Verizon symbol.
Right.
Everybody was wearing red shirts. And I flew over and caught it from above and got shots that you couldn't get before. That wasn't a possibility. And that was used in the kickoff, and it was just really cool to attend those kickoffs and see your footage being used for something like that and realize that it's good enough now to be used for something like that.
Yeah. So you didn't get paid for that first photo. Was that photograph or video?
That was video.
Video.
Yes.
So you didn't get paid for that first video. At what point did you decide that, oh, maybe this is something someone wants that I could get paid for?
After that, I realized that I didn't know very much about the whole editing of video or the editing of photographs to any degree, so I started kind of studying that and realizing that was a huge portion of it. I mean, anyone can learn to fly a drone. I mean, it's not trivial to learn, but once you get all that raw footage, no one wants to see raw footage.
Exactly.
I mean,
what do you do with it after you have it?
I mean, you ended up with just a whole bunch of footage that no one cares about.
Yeah.
So then I started studying that. I started learning how to edit in Final Cut and Premiere and doing things like that. And I mean, that made it possible. I mean, without that, like you said, I mean, you just end up with a bunch of nothing.
So you're kind of a one-man shop, right?
Yes.
So what services do you offer your customers?
I concentrate on photography now. I do everything just about through social media. I post stuff up, people see it, they contact me directly and say, hey, I want to buy that, or would you be interested in doing this project? It's actually very cool and freeing to have that, to where I'm not marketing myself outside of social media. I mean, it's something I do anyway, and that's how I get the vast majority of my business.
I love this because, I teach digital storytelling here in the communications department, and part of what we spend a good amount of the semester talking about is the importance of social media marketing and the role that it plays in companies getting the exposure that they want to get. It is a free platform.
It is.
And so, have you spent any money on advertising?
Every once in a while, I'll do the little Instagram ask you, hey, would you like to promote this thing? And I'll throw $10 at it or something. Nothing drastic. It's it's free, like you said, and it's a huge portion. I used to ignore Instagram. I thought how silly it was. Who was going to look at these high-res photos condensed down to a little square? But people are interested in that. You get a lot more business from that than you do from your own website, whereas on your website you show it high res and beautiful, but no one cares about that. They care about the likes and stuff on Instagram.
Absolutely. And most people stop for video, whereas they won't stop if they're scrolling through in social media. They won't stop for just words. So which is why we see so many companies using that technique just even in the past 3 or 4 years.
Oh yeah, it's become huge.
Huge. How much have you grown from zero to, like, how many clients do you have, and how would you gauge your success as far as how you've grown in the past year or so?
Just a drastic improvement. As your followers on Instagram, I mean, it's a silly metric to go by, but as they increase, it really does increase your business. You get that just out of the blue, someone will just send you a direct message, say, hey, I want to buy this, or will you do this project? And you can, I get construction companies, especially in the downtown area. I mean, how crazy it's booming and things are changing so quickly. People want to document that. They want to know what the area looked like at this period in time and what it's going to look like in the future. And you can do that through the air so much better than you can from the ground. I mean, and before you would have to hire a helicopter pilot and have him come out and do it, which is extremely expensive and dangerous for people involved.
Everyone, And they would have to get cleared by the FAA to be able to fly over a place where that's highly populated, or nearly wherever they are. And this is much, much cheaper for people to do.
And the quality, now that the cameras have gotten much better on a drone, is comparable to what you would get from a helicopter. I mean, you can get just as high res as you want. I mean, the technology has gotten so good. I mean, it's ridiculous at the fidelity you get. I'll take a picture downtown or something and do a kind of a 360 panorama, and I won't realize that I've captured this guy over washing windows, and I can go in detail and see what hat he's wearing. I mean, it's just nuts what you get. That wasn't possible just a few years ago. That fidelity did not exist.
Right. I could think of the possibilities for this could be endless. What are some of the projects? You mentioned construction, you mentioned downtown businesses. What are some of the projects that you've worked on recently?
I've done for Daniel Construction that Falls Tower is going up down there. It's going to be the second tallest building in Greenville. I've documented it. I have a project going with them. Once they kind of finalize construction, they want the view from each balcony, what the view is going to be like, and they're going to integrate that on their website. So I will fly up to each balcony, take a panoramic photo from the balcony, and then people who are interested in leasing those very expensive apartments will be able to see what their view will look like.
And view is 90% of what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, for the price. For sure.
Exactly.
There's that, and I've done just commercial projects for soccer, Corver Soccer, just doing overhead views of their formations and stuff like that. I mean, you can't, even with a helicopter, you wouldn't hover a helicopter over a bunch of kids.
Exactly.
It wouldn't be feasible.
Right. So you do things a little differently than other people because you're not the only company who does this. How do you do things differently?
A lot of the other drone manufacturers, the other drone operators, they like to do the real estate stuff. They like to do the documenting just the construction progress and stuff, and I like the creative aspects of it. I did some of the real estate stuff. I documented the construction, but there just wasn't a spark there. It became more like a daily grind, and that's not
because they have a certain aesthetic that they want you to keep.
Exactly. I didn't have any creative freedom in that, and
I see that.
That's the part that I like the most about it, is editing the videos and putting my own spin on it.
So I love the name. How did you come up with this name?
It started from Ferdinand von Zeppelin, who was the original inventor of the Zeppelin. I believe his name's Ferdinand. I could be completely wrong on that, but it was von Zeppelin. And vonzeppelin.com was taken, so I used Van Zeppelin, which kind of means the same thing. And it just kind of went from there, because I've always admired those old airships and stuff and thought they were pretty cool. I mean, and I wish they would come back in some way. And in some way they are. I mean, people are using them for transport again, so maybe one day I'll be able to take a transatlantic Zeppelin tour.
With your drone?
With my drone,
No. So what about Greenville and Furman is so kind of draws you to want to photograph from above?
Just a variety. I mean, like I said before, downtown is just constantly in flux and changing, and being able to document that. One thing that I do that a lot of drone operators do not do is the 360-degree images. They capture a moment in time that won't be there the next day. I mean, you won't be able to go back and see what these buildings look like while they were under construction. But if you take that and you
5 minutes with the sun, the lights.
Exactly. You capture that in its entirety, and viewing that in a VR headset is so immersive. It is so different than viewing a flat photo, and a lot of people aren't doing that. It's not a huge market. I have yet to sell a single 360 photo to anyone. No one's buying it, but I can see in the future, as VR headsets become less expensive and more ubiquitous, that those types of things will sell, because there will be an experience. You will go and it feels like you're there. It can't be underestimated how great a difference that is.
I would think the tower downtown would want one from the top of the very top, to show everyone this is what is outside. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's so much more immersive what you get, and people view them on the flat screen. You see scrolling around. All right, that's cool. You can see it all, but really putting the headset on, I mean, you're there. You're standing there. Yeah. And it's the same thing with just conventional cameras. They have 360 cameras now. Right. You set it down, and we would capture this entire studio, and it would be like I was sitting here and re-experiencing that again. I've done it with my kids. I mean, we've gone to a concert, and I've just taken a picture, like their first concert, boom. They can go back and watch that video, and it's like they're at that concert again, because they can look around and see, oh, I didn't even realize that guy was behind me.
Right.
You don't even know.
Because you're concentrating on what's on the stage.
Yeah.
I will say, we used to do this trick in news where we would set one of the little cube cameras on a kitchen timer, and it would go around the top of the kitchen timer and get time lapse. So if you don't have something that does it, you can do it without that. But I mean, and that's an innovative thought back when we did that. But now we have drones. But a lot of people can't get a drone because they're not certified in some way or whatever. Talk about the certifications and how that, I don't know if that hinders your company or how it helps you.
It helps in some ways because it weeds out people who aren't willing to get that certification, but it also, some of the newer regulations are very restrictive, like not being able to fly in national parks. I understand the reason behind it, because you don't want to intrude on anyone or disturb the tranquility of a national forest or something like that, but I believe they're eliminating a lot of opportunity there. Like they should have a way to pay for a special permit, say pay a couple $100 and you can fly that day if you're certified and you can do it, or have a drone day where you can go do that and get these type of pictures that don't exist because they don't allow it, or if they do exist, the person's flying illegally, which those are out there as well. But that type of stuff is too restrictive, and it's just going to get more and more tangled as Amazon and UPS and everyone get into this market and want to deliver things. I mean, it's crazy that they've gotten approval to do that. I don't know if you've seen some of the things that they're doing. Like eventually UPS will drive into your neighborhood and they will have a van that will open up and
all the drones
will fly out like a carrier and deliver packages, and then they'll come back and land in the van and the UPS guy will leave. He won't have to go door to door anymore. I mean, that'll be a thing, but how does that affect the hobbyist in his backyard who's flying his own drone? When the UPS swarm flies overhead, what does he do? Is he at fault if those drones run into each other? I mean, it's a technology question and a law question. I mean, how are they going to get around that? I mean,
do you find that the law is not keeping up with the technology?
Absolutely. It's impossible. Like, I mean, the FAA has their restrictions and their laws, but no one's enforcing them. There's no one. If you fly near an airport, and unless you fly into a plane, no one's going to know you did it. Which is, I don't know. It's they don't have the manpower. There's no way, because I mean they've sold millions and millions and millions of drones. There's no way to track them. Eventually, what will happen is any drone sold will have a transponder in it, like planes do, and they will know where your drone is at any given time, and it'd be like Big Brother type atmosphere.
How could that hurt? How could that hurt you, or could that help you?
It could be a little of both. I could see it stifling innovation. Maybe you won't be able to get the shot that you want because maybe it's teetering on a gray area of what you're doing.
On the line.
Exactly.
The edge of the airport.
Exactly. I mean, there are situations like that where, I mean, people who have owned drones for months and months and months, DJI will enact a geofence around a helipad that's off in the forest somewhere that no one uses. They use it once a month, and then that restriction will make it where he cannot fly in his own backyard just because someone may one day land at that helipad.
And right now, DJI has it that you can see those restrictions on your screen.
Yes, you can pull it up and they will actually physically stop you from taking off. You cannot fly. They won't let your drone take off if you're in one of those areas. It's kind of crazy.
Oh, well, have you ever run into that?
Oh, absolutely. I have. The Greenville wanted a documentation of the TD Conference Center, but it was right there next to the downtown airport. And you couldn't fly there. So, I mean, I didn't think I would be able to, but I went just to see. And it wouldn't allow me to take off. It said, no, you're too close to the airport. So.
Wow. So how did you troubleshoot that? Because on one hand, you have the city who wants this, and on the other hand, it's a municipal airport owned by the city, or run by the city.
At the time, there was no alternative, but they've implemented a program where you can get temporary authorization. Like, they will contact the airport and let them know that you're going to fly. And 9 times out of 10, you're flying at such a low altitude that it will not affect any airplane to begin with. When I fly, I'm like at 100 feet, because that's the most interesting thing. If you go up too high, you're missing so much. I mean, it's just a lot of people, they immediately get their drone, I want to see how high it can go. And they go up like 1,000 feet, which is illegal. You're only supposed to go 400 feet. But they'll go up and you take a shot and it looks like you're looking at Google Earth. I mean, you're not getting anything
out of that. You can go to Google Earth and look at it and see the exact same thing.
No one wants those pictures. I mean, you can take them all day long and no one will buy them. I mean, some of the ones I just recently sold were of downtown. I was like maybe 75 feet up. I mean, that's the way to go. I mean, you don't need to go that high, and I think they should offer some type of ability to go up to maybe 100 feet, because no plane is going to be at 100 feet unless he's crashing.
And let's hope that's not the case. Where do you see this going from here? Your business personally, how are you planning to grow it? Or are you?
I like the artistic aspect of it. I want to continue down that, and
Yeah.
I want to continue down the VR avenue, because I think that's the future. I think
Yeah.
more and more people are going to do that. We're going to get away from everything being a flat screen interface. We're not going to all be zombies with big
Right.
giant headsets on. They'll eventually get smaller, and everyone will have those. I mean, we won't carry phones around in our pocket anymore. We'll have a little set of glasses,
Right.
and from those we'll be able to view these things. And I'm kind of laying that foundation now and getting good at making those types of videos, and hopefully I'll lead
So-
that market.
So how is that different than the current videos that you're making?
Just the fidelity will get so much
Okay,
better. You'll
okay.
get, right now 360 video is kind of low res because they're spreading that 4K
Yes.
video out to 360 degrees. So
Right.
when you look at it, it's really not that impressive, and no one
Right.
wants to recreate that. You don't want to go see a concert in
Right.
low res unless you have a personal nostalgic connection to it.
Right, right. So where do you see Van Zeppelin in 10 years then?
That's a tough one. I mean, I hope to be doing the same type of things.
Still at Furman, or you've long left us?
I don't. Unfortunately, with the cost of healthcare and all, you can't do a small business like
Right.
that unless you're young and you don't have a family and you have no responsibilities. Yes, you
Right.
could probably do something like that, or if you're in Europe where they actually have healthcare.
Yeah.
But
I would think that it's very hard. We talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who talk about scaling. They've started their companies, on their kitchen tables or wherever, and then they grow, and the things that they find difficult are scaling up.
yes,
I think for you, one of the problems with scaling might be maintaining that sense of creativity that you want and that you use and that you put into all of your products.
yeah, absolutely. If you want to scale up, I would have to adopt more of those projects that I don't necessarily like. I mean, if you
Right.
want to make enough money to make it a viable business,
Right.
yes, I'd have to take the good with the bad
Right.
and do it. And it's not horrible. I mean, it's just right now I have a day job that
Takes care of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so let's do something a little more fun, a little more spontaneous. We're going to do a word association.
All right.
And I want you to I'm going to say a word, and I want you to just say what pops into your mind when I say that word, okay? Or it may be a personal experience.
Okay.
Mountain range.
That mountain range reminds me of Table Rock. I've done a lot of videos there, and mountain range reminds me of the first experience I did there, hiking to the top back when drones were huge, whereas a drone would be about as big as this table.
Right. Which is 36 inches. That's huge. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
very large propellers.
In diameter, yeah.
And climbing Table Rock with a backpack with camping equipment, water, and a drone with batteries and all that stuff. 50 pounds up Table Rock, which is a pretty hard climb.
That is a hard climb, yeah, especially with 50 pounds on your back.
Exactly, and I remember doing that, but that Table Rock video was a big kind of breaking point for me. It got a lot of attention on YouTube because no one had seen Table Rock from that perspective unless they had flown over it or done a helicopter loop around it and stuff. You were able to get something that just didn't exist before, and that's what I like, creating something that just was not there before. I mean, no one has ever seen it. Like I just recently went to Table Rock again, but now I climbed it with a much smaller drone. It was a lot easier to go up there, but ironically, the smaller drone has a better camera, more capabilities.
Right.
And I was able to do a time-lapse, complete rotation around Table Rock and get some amazing footage that just didn't exist.
Right, that no one else has.
Yeah.
So at some point, someone is going to want that. I think that's part of entrepreneurship. You are providing something that someone will want.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, and that's what every entrepreneur, hopes that they're doing. And yours just happens to be, in one of the most beautiful places on earth, which is around here. You talked about YouTube. And we've talked a little bit about social media. I want to circle back around to that because I do think that's important. Mm-hmm. You found most of your business either word of mouth or social media, which when I talk to my students about that, I say social media is a digital word of mouth.
Absolutely.
In essence.
Yes, I mean,
which is always the best advertising.
It's the most important thing. I remember I talked to someone who initially advised me to start using Instagram because I did not use it because I didn't think it would be viable, and I kind of scoffed at him. And now I look back, and I've told him since then that yes, that was some excellent advice to use that. Use any platform. I mean, I have a TikTok account now because people use TikTok for whatever reason. You put little short videos, and that has actually garnered some interest. It's insane. I mean, just use the media that's allowed, because I mean, it's free, like you said.
Free, right?
Yeah.
Unless you, of course, want to purchase advertising, which you can do.
Yes.
You know. Okay. Second word, building.
Building, it's not necessarily building, but Liberty Bridge downtown. It's one of my most photographed spots, and one of the spots that I sell the most of. People love that bridge. I mean, it's iconic Greenville landmark. The environment around it changes constantly, so taking those pictures, I'm always guaranteed to get something. I'll hit it on my way home after work. I'll just stop by, take a few shots, see what I can get at sunset.
That's nice.
Great area.
I love that, yeah. Sky?
Oh, Sky. Another Furman tale was I was leaving Furman. This was last year in the fall, around this time, and happened to be just leaving, and I looked in my rearview mirror and noticed a spectacular sunset, insane sky, just on fire. And I always have my drone with me, so I just pulled over on the side of the road, took off, and was able to capture some amazing pictures that, I mean, the sunset will creep out of nowhere. You have no idea.
Right.
I mean, it looks like this is going to be a dud, and then all of a sudden, the sky's on fire. And you have a very slim opportunity. You have 5 minutes to capture that before it's gone. And that's one thing, being a drone photographer, you pay attention to the sky constantly. Like on my way walking over here, I was looking up. It looks like it's going to be a great sunset tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
So I may fly it, and I may
So
get
your drones out. We do have some amazing sunsets around here, and it's very good advice, I think, to always be prepared to take photographs, to be able to have something with you to take pictures. So what other pieces of advice do you have for people who might be thinking that they have an idea but don't know how to carry it out, especially if it's on that creative side? Because I think a lot of creatives don't think that they're innovative thinkers, and they are.
Absolutely. Go for it. I mean, do it. Do the research behind it. If you think you have an idea, there's a million resources out there. There's a million YouTube videos showing you how to implement at least aspects of that idea. In my case, editing and stuff. I've learned so much from YouTube. I mean, there's a million guides that will show you how to do exactly what you want to do. I mean, you don't have to go take any expensive classes or anything like that to discover how to do it. Just start researching and start doing as soon as possible. The sooner you do it, the better you're going to get at it. I mean, in the beginning, I mean, like everything, you're going to suck. I mean, your first
This is true, yeah.
the first things you do will not be good,
Yeah.
but you get better and better over time. I mean, I look back on my early drone videos that I was initially proud of, and now I've actually taken some of them offline because they look so bad, and I'm kind of embarrassed that that was out there.
Right. And you do want your best product on your website.
Yes,
yeah.
always. Yeah. And but it is fun to do a kind of direct comparison. Sometimes like this, I filmed this 5 years ago, and this. I mean, it's just a drastic difference if you keep striving to improve.
I do that with my early news stories as well, and I'm like, oh, I cringe when I watch them. I'm like, oh my goodness, what was I thinking? I think that's a great piece of advice, because one of the things that I teach in the class that I teach is especially with creativity, it's a process. You will fail at certain points. And I think entrepreneurs and innovative thinkers also have lots of failures, because having failures is part of success.
Oh yeah.
So how would you say that you failed and overcome those failures?
Oh, many times. I mean, just failed from the aspect of filming and not knowing the right settings to use, and you've blown a shot. You haven't done it. You didn't get what you wanted to, but then taking that failure and making it a success by learning how to use the post process to make it a viable picture or a viable video. I mean, that was a huge difference. You don't realize how much work goes into the after product. I mean, like this podcast. I mean, you're going to have to edit it. I mean, there's something you have to do with anything, any picture, any video. What comes out of the camera is just the start of it.
Right.
I mean, the real work begins afterwards.
And I think that's true for any business. We all see the finished product, the finished video, the finished photograph, or the finished, we listen to the finished podcast, but we don't see everything that went into that. And there was probably some failures along the way.
Yeah, and people will kind of trivialize that and think, oh, that didn't look that hard, because they don't see those steps that went into it. They'll think, oh, all you did was go up and you snapped a few pictures, and you want to charge me how much? You don't realize the failures and everything that went into being able to get that picture to begin with and make that picture look the way it did look. Right. So, because I mean, you will get people who will scoff at your certain prices or something like that, and you just kind of dismiss it and keep going because you know what you're worth at a certain point and you have to go with that.
And I think that's a good piece of advice too, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they're providing a service of some sort, really have to think hard about what do I charge? What am I worth? Especially when it's their own personal work. And a lot of times we devalue our work.
Oh yeah.
So what was the process that you went through to come to your pricing and getting what you're worth for your photographs and your video?
That was very difficult. I mean, in the beginning, I mean, you have a picture and you don't realize, you don't know how much it worth. So you go to Google and you look, I mean, how much are other photographers charging, and seeing that, and then realizing that I was very undervaluing what the services I was offering. I was doing so much work, and if you calculated it out to an hourly rate, it was just, I might as well have been flipping burgers. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, you can't do that. So then when you start pricing the way you should, you realize that a lot of these companies, that they expect that, and they will pay you a lot more than you think they will. I mean, just because they know the value in it. They understand the work that goes into it. Whereas, and you will get people who don't understand that. They're maybe smaller businesses or individuals or something who have that mentality where they think all you're doing is clicking a button. And you just got to let those go. I mean, let them go and move on to the next client.
I think too, in that valuation process, when we devalue ourselves, it kind of puts a red flag out to people who might be soliciting our services, that we're not good at what we do.
Oh yeah.
You know, so I think that's why it's one of the reasons it's so important to set that value right.
Oh, it is. And they will either take advantage of you and they realize that you don't know how good you are, or they will think there's something wrong with your business, or that maybe you aren't as good as they thought and you aren't reliable, or there's some reason why you're not charging like industry standard. And it's a trial and error thing. I mean, it's something you have to go through, and it wasn't fun. I mean, it wasn't fun sorting those prices out and getting them, but I finally got to a point where I'm fairly confident and I'm charging the right prices.
All right. JJ Fowler, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The CEO and owner of Van Zeppelin Aerial Drone Footage. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being with us today, and we appreciate all the great advice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Speaking of JJ's advice, I just want to go over it again. So do your homework. JJ says educate yourself. Take those chances. Follow your dreams. What you're thinking about, do. And then make sure that you educate yourself in how much you should be charging for your innovative ideas. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our podcast channel, the Class E Podcast, brought to you by a partnership between Furman Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department at Furman University. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this special summer edition of the Class E Podcast. And thank you to our guest, JJ Fowler with Van Zeppelin Aerial Photography. Listeners, we have another treat for you in this special series, Pathfinders in Purple. In our next episode, we talk with the owners of Oak Hill Cafe here in Greenville, South Carolina, Dr. Brent Nelson, his wife Lori Nelson, and chef owner David Porras. Until next time, dream big, everybody.